Brilliant. Yeah, so welcome. I'm Dan Duran, and I'm what's called a cluster lead for visual arts, which is a cluster of different subjects. And the subjects we have in our area are fine art. Where's Amanda? Do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Amanda Francis. I'm a senior lecturer in fine art, and actually I work mainly with first years, so you will see me quite often. So I'll talk about this in more detail when we get together after the presentation.
Yeah, it's fine. And so I thought it would be nice to just put sort of names to faces. Otherwise, you've got these people that you don't quite know at the moment. So we've got Adam Wiseman is representing photography and commercial photography.
Yeah, hi, I'm Adam Wiseman. I am a senior lecturer and course for commercial photography, and I also do I'm often teaching first year students, so I look forward to seeing some of you, if not all of you. And we sort of do we piggyback off some of the existing photography program, but this is a new program that's been developing, so it's quite exciting.
So we've got a number of new programs. I actually took the asterisks off them because they're no longer new. I guess this will be the second year we've run them. But they're a little bit smaller in terms of population size, which is actually a massive advantage for the students to get more time with the staff. But our new courses are fine art technology, commercial photography, illustration animation, also run the illustration area as well as a sort of temporary measure. And we've also got Sam, who runs our sort of foundation year. So I don't know how many of you have done a foundation or looking to do a 4-year degree, but I don't know, Sam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Sarah Zeke, and as Dan said, I'm the program leader for the Foundation Fine Art and Design course. Within this institution, because we've had such a great array of workshops, I mean, more so than some of the universities in London, we really sort of focus within that whole area of sort of expanding the skill set, bringing it in to the BA courses here at the university. So you've got the woodworking, sculpture workshops, printmaking, textiles, and also the 3D printing suite with that of a 6th access robotic arm also. And all of these things you can really much you're all very well to push you all to use these workshops as much as possible. Thanks.
Probably done.
I think that's about done actually. But hey, the online people.
Yeah, so we've got online. But okay, so yeah, cheers, Sam. I've actually also skipped over illustration animation. So Will, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself as well. Pass the mic. So we've got an online audience today, so that's why we're miking up so they can hear.
Hello to the audience in the studio and those at home. I'm a course leader for illustration animation. So that's a combination course where you're with animators part of the time, you're with illustrators. The rest of the time you're learning a full range of skills for the modern illustration workplace, which very much includes animation skills. You need to have those skills if you're going to illustrate. So
we've actually got an animation course as well, which belongs to a different school. Historically, it was part of our cluster, and then sort of moved more towards media. And you sort of kind of get that a lot, where subjects are sort of between different areas. And really, it's an administration reasons why things are moved within schools. But we always sort of straddle in between the two different areas because we're obviously with animation very, very close to our hearts. So I just want to kind of go through, it's going to be about half an hour, I reckon. If I can do it quicker, I will, but it's quite visual, so we shouldn't be sort of hanging around and I shouldn't be waffling on too much. Basically, oh, actually, Andrew just walked in. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, Andrew, before we kick off. Could you grab the mic?
Sure. I'll start again. My name's Andrew. I'm the course leader for graphic design and illustration. I'm just doing a little bit of tech. Tech on the computers will be up and running shortly.
Brilliant. Cheers, man. Thanks. So yeah, as I say, I'll try and rattle through this. I'm sure you've already done a talk already this morning. So everything we do is based around this kind of center point, which is the kind of community. And I guess I'm going to kind of start at the beginning, start
sculpture.
Pandemic, we were doing like kind of events in this room, and obviously a bit more socially distanced. And that was a Gil about his influences, or what he's influenced by in terms of skateboarding. This is Michael Pinsky, is one of our researchers and readers, and he is an artist, and this is he did a TED talk, and this is a kind of a snippet of that TED talk. Well, obviously, if we're doing events, we need posters and other things made. So this is like just some of the examples of some posters we do that the students create for the events that are going on. So we kind of got these things, and then I guess I guess through the pandemic we learned to maybe do some alternative things that were a bit more kind of digital. So this is a series that Sam runs, actually, called Conscious Isolation. Do you want to say anything about it, maybe? A little bit. Just flick it up.
Hi again, guys. So this is Conscious Isolation, and my partner and I,
Sorry, go on.
we basically thought that because everybody was getting starved of culture, being able to go up to galleries and things like this, we put together this this lecture series called Conscious Isolation. And essentially what we did was we was calling in individuals from our own pool and community, directly, and bring them in to talk. And the nice thing about this project is that when we brought it in with the University of East London by the help of Emma Maguire and also Dan Duran, we were really able to establish very technically a great, I suppose, program. And the nice thing about it also is it's not London-centric, it's worldly. So we have lecturers that are coming in, talking online, obviously, speaking from LA to Brazil, over from China also, as well as obviously that of the UK.
So we also we've got a lot of different, we've got undergraduate courses, which are degree courses, but we also have postgraduate, and then we have like prof doc, so doctoral degrees as well. So we've got like a whole stream of, like, potentially, if you want to start in foundation, go all the way through a prof doc, you might be here for 10 years. And, so we've got a lot of resource and a lot of things to learn and a lot of people that have got knowledge. So this is another way of getting our students involved. And I'll just play you a little clip of this.
Thanks everyone for attending. This event is in collaboration with the University of East London.
This is a good example. I went to Alfred's University in upstate New York on a fellowship, and they had a neon department, and I was basically able to bend my own neon.
This is again another Conscious Isolation and University of East London collaboration. And here we have some fantastic speakers that are going to speak us through what I'm doing in art school.
Brilliant. So they're the kind of things that we do within the cluster, but there's also lots of things that happen more centrally, which also support us. And this is kind of some of the things that happen. There's competitions. We tried to have a Bauhaus Christmas party, which is, arguably Bauhaus was one of the first art schools, art and design schools, and they used to go up to these raucous, interesting parties. So one of our parties was kind of themed on that. But yeah, fine art auction is something we do every year, and is happening as a part of teaching this year, and other things. So I'm sure as students wanting to go on a degree, then you're thinking, okay, that's great, all what's happening in the building, but what about, where else is there? So we do lots of trips. Obviously, the pandemic had a little bit of complication during that period, but we're sort of getting back into it. Amanda took a load of students to Bristol, to the Arnolfini and Spike Island, Houser and Worth. Okay, so some great galleries, in a different location. And I think it's as much about being with students and bonding with them, and then having those kind of off-the-cuff conversations, which you don't necessarily have time to do in a kind of classroom context. Maybe time's not the right word, but it's a different kind of context, sitting down next to someone, eating your sandwich. This is some projects I did with Ed actually a little while ago. So this was down to, I think this is Margate. Yeah, Margate or Sheerness, can't remember. We did some to Berlin. I've got like a contact at Secret Cinema. I don't know if you know what Secret Cinema is, but it's a kind of it's almost like a promenade theatre performance, come theatre, come movie. So this one was, I think this was Blade Runner. Is it Blade Runner? I think it's Blade Runner. Blade Runner. So Blade Runner, what they do is you all dress up and you go to this event as the characters within the film, and the film gets acted around you, and then at a certain point they move everyone into a particular location, and you watch the film, and then it kind of, there's bars, and it's like a mini slice of being in the movie. And we obviously got to go backstage during the day to check out like pre-production, and the students got to meet the designers and talk to the people that put it on, which was really amazing. We've had trips to India as well, further afield, and USA. So it's not just your sort of local European, it's sort of international, much more further afield. We have a great thing called Going Global, which has been put on ice at the moment, but once I think social distancing and these kind of things kind of peter out, then we'll be able to get back into it. And the idea is that any student can apply for this bursary, and it's not means tested or anything, and you can only have it once, but you can, I think it's up to 1,500 quid, something like that. It's quite a lot of money, and you can spend that to travel somewhere. So we often have like dissertation students or students working on a final project go back to India and maybe go to their native kind of, kind of check out their roots, and it really helps them flush out, maybe stuff that they never get to do normally. So let's try and get this to go. Okay. So as you came in, you would have just briefly walked through the start of our gallery, which is called Way Out East. So I really welcome, or would sort of encourage you to have a look at the gallery as you sort of have maybe a bit of time later on. There again, it's about, giving you the tools that you would have in the real world, give you that experience. This was actually a virtual version of the Way Out East gallery that we created during the pandemic, so we could have exhibitions, but do it in a digital VR kind of AR kind of perspective. So this is some of the MA students, and they're working inside the gallery in a digital kind of realm. Okay. We need sort of space, different types of spaces. We've got this room here called the Lightwell, which is, multidisciplinary. We have lots of different things going on in here, but we've also got this space called the Container. We're dockside, and arguably dockside was eradicated by containers and containerization and the international movement of goods, and arguably capitalism and how it's grown. To embrace that, we've got our own container, which we've got decked out as a project space, and any student can book that space. It's literally a white cube, and you can put your own project in there or test something out. So this is something that's just if you sort of go out the front door, just kind of hang a left, and there's a lonely container. And we often have shows and different things in there, and it can be a really lively kind of space. Coming towards the end of the degree and the end point of any year, we have degree showcases, as you would expect, which are big, lively events where everyone can relax, show their work, invite their parents, and just generally have a good time. We also invite industry and that kind of thing to come and look at your work. So this is just some of the events we've had over the previous few years or several years. This is some really interesting work that we had displayed. I think this is maybe a little bit as left over from something else, but it was a really nice AR poster. So when you put your phone in front of it, it would all animate. Okay, we're going back to showcase. It's a bit of an anomaly, that one. Okay, so really for me, it's, this kind of confidence and adaptability is what's going to really motor you into the workplace and just into your career. And this next section is about really just increasing that confidence and adaptability. So it's taking you maybe a little bit out of your comfort zone, but adding things that you might not normally have thought about. So we do electives. So all students get to do an elective, and this is like a week or 2 weeks, depending on what level you are, where you can choose a subject out of your discipline. So let's say you're a graphic designer, and you want to go and do some cyanotypes, or maybe you're an illustrator and you want to, I don't know, come and do some printmaking, I don't know, 3D, 360 imaging. So you just get to choose different subjects without actually moving subjects, just for a little bit, just to kind of give you the taste. And the idea is that we're all different. We've all got different passions. We're all interested in different things. And if I learn something and then my friend learns something else, then we might talk about that. And then I might learn what they've learned, and they might learn what I've learned. And therefore, we're learning in a kind of a more natural context. And it might not be complete like everything, but it might be just enough to then one day when I'm walking past a particular room or particular kind of workshop, go, actually, yeah, my friend really enjoyed that his experience or their experience in that place. Why don't I go in and check that out? So it's all about kind of opening doors really, and allowing you to kind of navigate in your own way. So it's you select what you want to do. This is some of the images from the workshops. This is actually, I think, Amanda and Sai workshop. So we're really lucky. We've got 16mm film, so it's proper film, movie film, and you can scratch into it and kind of create things. This is the container space, actually. This is Carmen, one of the photography lecturers, set up a pinhole camera. This is Reese, one of our students who was working a couple of days ago. We sent him on a project to shoot a commercial job. This is printmaking. So like I say, definitely go and check out printmaking. Really lively area. It's always super busy. These are some of the graphic design students, I think. This is one of Will's workshops, doing some animation, sort of stop frame animation. Ridwan, this is yours. So that was Ridwan's work. And this is like a thing called, is it Drawbot? Python programming. So drawing using computer code. This is Carmen again doing a different workshop. I think that was looking at portraiture and lighting. Anyway, okay, cool. So we also share contextual studies. I think it's really important that contextual studies is something sometimes listening to maybe someone who's thinking about photography as a graphic designer, you kind of learn something from them and vice versa. So our contextual studies, which is our theory stuff, is all shared across the cluster. So you'll be meeting different students and they're again breaking down the barriers, making new friends and that kind of thing. We have a really massive central loan store. So if you want to borrow a camera or get some equipment or borrow some lights or take some microphones out, whatever it is, it's literally jam-packed with equipment, and it works like a library system. You just you give them your card, they swipe it out for let's say for 4 days. You take the equipment, use it, look after it, bring it back on time, and all is good. And yeah, it's about facilitating you to create work. We want you to create as much work as possible. Laptop trolleys. So we have kind of moved away from labs a little bit, rather than having computer labs where we have just a classroom full of computers. And we tend to have laptop trolleys where we bring the computers into the classroom. And I say classroom with a kind of a caveat, is that we really call classrooms like studios. So we bring these computers into the studio context, much more like you would in a design agency or any kind of other creative field. So yeah, it's about bringing, there again, the technology into those places. So yeah, moving a little bit out again, there's things that are kind of periphery, things like LinkedIn Learning. So these are things that you get as a student access to. So LinkedIn Learning has got, I don't know how many, but well, let's have a look. These are some of the courses I've done, but they're video tuition. And I think in many ways, I think learning software personally, anyway, I would say it's a really good way to learn, because you can do it in your own pace. You might be on the train and you can kind of watch a few videos. I'm sure you're all into YouTube and stuff. You probably know more about this than me. But anyway, this is a kind of a really rich seam of information about software-specific stuff. And literally, I guarantee you'll find tuition on pretty much any bit of software you can think of. We also have our students in creative areas get access to Adobe Creative Cloud. So you get Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, After Effects, all that stuff you can install on your own computer if you've got one. You've obviously got the kind of the normal stuff, IT support, obviously if you need support with those kind of things, health and well-being, a dyslexia team, a disability team, a career zone, which is really like kind of getting you ready for a career. So I'm dyslexic myself, and I think you'll find a lot of the creative people have learning difficulties, and I think that's normal. Our brains are maybe creative and they work in a slightly different way to maybe how the normal, inverted commas, population works. But I think that's a total benefit. And I think the more we embrace like divergent, convergent, different types of ways of thinking. So I don't really see this these areas as being like something to be afraid of. It's like these are services to actually help you get through a system which is maybe not completely designed for you. Yeah, a really, really positive experience there. And then, you know, out broader still, this is where we kind of interface with the outside world and links with industry and that kind of thing. So we obviously do competitions. So in graphic design, we do like D&AD and competitions in illustration like Penguin book cover and various other things that listed here. This is some stuff, some partners for photography. So happy, adaptable, confident, successful students. And that's really what we're trying to achieve by having all these layers. So yeah, thanks for listening. Hope that wasn't too wordy and too long. Tried to be succinct. Here are some examples of just really great work from alumni. So these are graduates that have left. So this is ASAP Rocky wearing a coat which was screen printed or made by a student of ours called Charlotte May Perot, a French student, and she studied graphic design and illustration. And a stylist saw the work she was doing at the Royal College. She went on to Royal College, and they got this out to New York, got it on ASAP Rocky, and it hit the streets. So that's kind of cool. This is another one of our students. There's a graphic designer called Izmir. So he designed the logo that then went up into space. So we can claim we've got our graphic design in space, which I think is super cool. This was Amabel, one of our illustration students, who self-published a book and won like a kind of a book prize for that, which was really, yeah, really sweet. And this is Joe Pleece, who is an alumni. He actually teaches back here now a little bit. And he designed or helped design a thing called the Ototo. And I won't really tell you about the Ototo, but the Ototo is at the back there, and I'm sure you can see that fruit. And once I connect it up, I might not have connected it up. When you touch the fruit, it triggers things. It's essentially like a sensor, a machine that allows you to interface with a digital kind of computer or something like that. So yeah, so there's lots of things going on here. We're really proud of our students and proud of our alumni, and we often get them coming back because people just love it here. So, but yeah, like yeah, I think don't know. We're gonna split up and take you in different directions. So. I guess, Amanda, do you want to, yeah. 1, 2, brilliant, 3, awesome. Cool, yeah. So Adam, do you want to, yeah, grab your?
Photography and commercial photography.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, we just want to come to this end.
You
So
guys.
should we just walk around and...
Yeah, so I thought maybe we'll do a trip towards the end. So, yeah.
After the workshop.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. So Amanda, I didn't actually discuss this. Amanda, sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Should we do it? Should we do like a little tour?
Yeah, when do you want to do that?
Well, I think they finish at 12:45, so I reckon like 12:15ish, 12:20. 12:20, and that gives us half an hour to just walk around the building. Is that all right? So we'll meet back here. Nice to meet you guys. Right. Maybe everyone's found everyone. You guys can all go up and take part.
Yep.
So Dan, should we meet here?
Yeah, I reckon 20 past 12. Just roughly come back here, and we'll do a tour.
Okay, brilliant.
Just so that you can see the stuff.
So we won't do the tour now. We'll just.
I reckon go and do your workshop. Yeah.
Okay, and then 20 past 12.
Yeah, we'll walk around.
We'll come by. Follow
Yeah.
me.
Lovely to meet you guys. I'll see you soon. No worries. Give us a sec.
that's a triangle.
Yes.
You can do another fold that stops it opening up. Quite so much.
I think that's a good idea.
It's all good.
Sometimes a little bit of tape will help that too, but once you've got it stuck with the wall as well, you're almost there.
Yep, that's all good.
So that's good. It's just folding it in.
Oh, okay.
Like that. Corner's got, so you've got that fold needs to be an out.
A little bit of origami first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too, yeah.
Sure. Origami, coffee, and then
Yeah, it's all good.
make as many of these as you like. So kind of growth form. So if you imagine something like a beehive or a wasp's nest, they kind of evolve in this way.
Yep.
Cells interlocking. And there's a little bit of masking tape. All very low tech, this part of it. Quite often, the way
Oh, I need to get this one.
between physical and digital.
Yeah.
Sometimes called Industry 4.0, so like 3D printing, all these things where you've got physical things, even quite handmade things, interacting with the highest tech. And so this technology is called projection mapping, where you map to surfaces, 3D surfaces. You see these kind of light shows now. Projecting on a building and making the building kind of look like it's warping and changing, or you get kind of Halloween shows where they map the building, make people appear in the room, etc. So a couple of bits of tape, all you need. And then
Craig, are these sort of like hot dim? Is it dimmed down? Doesn't it? Oh, okay.
Should I turn the lights on?
Yeah, please. Yeah, I just yeah.
She was kind of grateful to change You might need a little bit of tape to, if it's opening up, you can put in a little bit of tape to control it. But do you totally new relationship. Hey folks, you alright? What are you doing? So over the 3 years, we'll also build your performing confidence. You've got that in common with a lot of, but it's context, isn't it? So what we do is make.
Oh, hey. Hey, so we've just done a little talk which we recorded. Are you here for the open day or the taster day? Oh, okay. So that's right. You're early, so that's fine. So we'll repeat the talk a little bit later. Yeah, because there's like two things happening today. There's one before.
They were meant to come on the 19th of March.
Oh right, okay.
Someone rang in the other day.
And said, "Do you want to come?"
Well, you couldn't understand him properly.
Oh right. Oh well. Let's say so. So we've done a talk here. So but we'll repeat that again later. But what we can do, we've broken out into little groups of different areas. So fine art are next door doing a workshop. So let me come and introduce you to that. And so I'm Dan Duran. I'm the like cluster lead. So so I lead this area of visual arts. And your names?
Joshua.
Joshua. Brilliant. Hey Malcolm. So so come in with these guys. So Dan, I've got Joshua and Malcolm. Brilliant. You can get. You'll be roped in. You can get involved. This is Amanda, the sort of program leader for so in charge of fine art, and this is Dan Coombs, who's one of the senior lecturers. But brilliant. Brilliant. So, I mean, maybe, is there a place they can put, Dan, is there somewhere they can just put their stuff and then get involved? There you go. So, jump in, don't be shy, and just, you can't do anything wrong, just kind of get involved. Brilliant. And I'll see you in a little bit, but yeah, just, yeah.
The counterpoint of that, actually, like to do those things. Kind of analog facilities.
It's all looking good.
If you want the film print banner in the corner.
Yeah. Can't see what Will's doing. Do you want to just say hi to those people? You all right? How's it going, everyone? So for the audience that are listening, maybe this is a projection mapping project. And Will has been working with these applicants to create these origami triangles.
So
Next step.
next step. So you can draw with light up here. So get that line.
There's a selfie moment in a minute. So basically what we're going to do, we've got two machines set up to do this, but we can just do this one maybe and you'll see how it goes. Yeah, so there's a technique. So there's lots of different, essentially this is drawing what we call vectors, which is essentially a point in space to another point in space, and then you create a line that joins them. And you can curve those lines, but in this case, we're just doing straight lines. And this is a simple version of that kind of software running on a web browser. And it's just really good for this kind of thing because it's super simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to avoid anything that's got like a blue, like these blue boxes. I'm just going to kind of click, and I'm going to click and drag. And then when I get to the next point, I'm going to release. And then I want to avoid that, so I'm going to start down here first and then do the same thing again. So every time you click, you want to kind of avoid the green, the blue. So I'm going to go to this corner, and it's a bit weird because you're drawing looking at that, even though you're using this. So it's really good for your kind of dexterity and just sort of spatial awareness, I guess.
You'll have to get used to.
You'll get used to it. It'll be a bit weird.
So we're working with the graphics tablet. So that kind of, it takes a while for your hand-eye screen to...
Once you get it though, I swear to God, it's much faster than a mouse, because you can just move really, really quickly. The only thing is you've got to be careful about RSI. But anyway, that's another because you're clicking. It is. It's just that you're in a more relaxed position. I think you can anyway. Yeah, I thought they'll foul that in my job, but anyway, yeah. So I'll just finish this one, and then one of you guys can kind of do a bit. So go on, one of you. So obviously you can see what's happening here on screen, but really you're looking at there where you point. Obviously you know how to use a computer, but where you're pointing, you can just click and hold, and then release. And that's a little bit squiffy. Let's just do Apple Z that and do it again. I think it's snapped for some reason. There you go. So yeah, cool. Do you want to go? Go on. You only need to do a couple of bits. You'll be fine. Yeah. So look at there and just move your finger and get a feel for it. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. So click there and hold, and then that's it. Perfect. Will's about to make it harder. Yeah, that's it. You don't need. That's perfect. Yeah. So this is, but I think the weird thing about Illustrator is that I like things exact, and I think if you are a little bit OCD, like it can be really like fulfilling, because when you get it all done, it's like, man, that looks amazing, and then but it takes a certain kind of brain to think, to do that. And I think most people are like, I can't be bothered, but actually you need people that are a bit more kind of rigorous, and it's how the world works, we're all different. So yeah, to go for another bit and just. So try and fill that whole pyramid. So avoid the blue. So start in the bottom corner for this one. That's it. Yeah, and then go back towards the blue. Yeah, Perfect. Yeah, that's it. And then the same thing, start in the top corner and work down. Yep. Well, it doesn't matter. Once it gets, to be honest, once it's all there, it doesn't. So yeah, so avoid. Okay, perfect. That's it. Don't know what that bit is there. I think it's a little bit of weird, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I made a starship.
Ah, right.
No, it's a starship. Like, there's not the ship. Yeah, I was going to say with them, the fish.
Yeah.
Ship. So it sort of goes up and then like on.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
And I guess do the other side. That's it. Brilliant. Oh, so just, I think you can probably just, oh yeah, just click anywhere and it will deselect it. There you go. Start. Go on, do you want to have a go? Go on, have a go. No. So it's sort of like, yeah, if we, let's go back to that tool. And the reason we've done this is so we can set up 2 projectors so people, several people can have a go at the same time. Yeah. It's slightly weird doing it at an angle. Whoa. But you kind of get the gist. But I'll just kind of quickly do a bit more. And it doesn't have to be super accurate. That is not super accurate. So the idea is, yeah, obviously you get that going and then we're going to animate it and so it will kind of pulse. But what's really great about it is that with things like this, this is kind of almost like a really simplified version, but we have things called projection mapping. So projection mapping, I don't know if you have come across it. If you want to come over here and have a look at this one. So this is an artist who does projection mapping on like buildings, for example. So rather than just doing stuff on a wall, it's like, really big installations. And, often, we're moving into a world of like augmented reality. So you understand what augmented is like Pokemon Go and things where it kind of, you see things through a device. So it's quite not far away, I think, where ultimately any surface that exists in the world can be a surface that you could put something on, some bit of communication. So as an illustrator or graphic designer, that's an opportunity. Like, I don't know, I'm not a football fan, but if you watch football, you often get the billboards. Now, the billboards that you see on TV are not the billboards that are seen if you're actually there. And if you're in, like, let's say you're watching in South America, the billboards will be different again. And they augment them by changing the billboards digitally so that they can advertise to different sets of people in different regions. And I think that will only, be more as we go along. So introducing you to these kind of ideas, it's kind of just a starting point. So on the one hand, you've got these things, and then you've got some things like electronic devices. So touch a bit of fruit, any bit of fruit. So this is called an Atoto, which I was talking about. Joe was part of the team, one of our alumni. And the Atoto is essentially an Arduino, which is what this is. So this is an Arduino like sensor, and you might have come across these. These probably exist in your home, but you don't realize. And they allow you different sensors and things to connect up. So you might find it in a fridge or something like that. But instead, what they've done is they put it into a musical instrument. So it's laid out like a keyboard. And you can connect those to any object or anything that is water-based, that has a capacitance. And through this system, you can even turn people into a thing. So if I could set myself, hold on to these wires, and then every time you touch me, it would trigger it. Yeah. But the idea is that, in a world where you've got these kind of things happening, we can use this to trigger and turn on and off things. So just as though it could be pavement on the, let's say it's paving slabs. So every slab you touched would trigger a computer like that, and then that would go to a bigger computer, and that would trigger something like this. So you could literally do, like hopscotch. You could do hopscotch, and it would actually animate it as you're going along. So imagine a children's play area where things would actually light up as the kids played. So it would just look like the regular street. But as soon as the kid light lands on the first step, it will go do, and it will light up and then allow you to kind of, work within it. So it's just like things like that can be really fun, and it's just the next generation of stuff that we're starting to kind of work with. Yeah, and there's different types. This is called a pie cap, which is essentially like an Arduino, but it's for a Raspberry Pi. Don't know if you've heard of a Raspberry Pi. It's like a mini computer. That's a Raspberry Pi. And it's sort of like, I guess if this is basic, this is like a little bit more advanced, and then you get a regular computer. Yeah. So this has got a similar processor to an iPhone, and you can run big screens off this thing, even though it's tiny. So yeah, these are sort of somewhere between each other. This one here is a different version of this, which is got no music. It's more sensors. But yeah, it's kind of a fun, interesting kind of way of interacting with the world, I guess. So I mean, it's very, very quick, very fast, but it's really easy,
so many uses for that, isn't there?
I mean, you can set this up in 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Amazing for someone with dementia.
Yeah, well, just in terms of sensory kind of yeah. Well, you throw the fruit.
You'd know what they're throwing by the
Yeah. Just avoid the tomatoes. But yeah, so and you've got little there's a little instruction booklet, but it's just really like breaking down. The whole point was it was for kids. And if I play this video, you'll see. So if I can. So this is what the Atoto. So this is Joe here on the side, and he's our student. You can probably see it on the screen behind me. There we go. Big, go big.
So it's a synthesizer and musical invention kit that allows you to make your own music. We designed it so anyone is able to use it. You can unpack your kit and get making straight away. Each Atoto has 12 touch inputs, arranged like a keyboard, an onboard speaker, and headphone output. It's either powered by batteries or USB. It has 4 sets of inputs, modifying the sound. It's easy to use. All you do is plug in the object bar on the and touch it to activate the sound. Using different combinations of objects, sensors, and sounds, the only limit is
So the idea is you get kids to sort of have a workshop, and they can kind of create and just very stick and paste, cut and paste. So we shot this in one of our studios. That's what I was saying. You can turn people into a trigger as well. So yes, it's just kind of like, I guess, being creative with something that on the face of it is kind of much more towards computer science or things like that. But it's like how do artists and designers get involved? And I think, this kind of projection mapping and kind of introduces worlds there. So yeah. Wonder if we've probably, I want to see what these guys are up to. We've got a little bit of time. Do you want to have a little bit more of a go of this? See how you get on? Go on. Because I can, what's that? Because it'd be good if we could finish this. Where are you guys from? Southwark. Southend. Right. Okay. So I couldn't quite hear. Yeah. I've got a friend that lives in Southend. Like a little bit out, I think. A little bit. What's the next one along the coast? It's like kind of quite hilly. Leigh-on-Sea. Yeah, that's it. Good cycling up that way. Good pubs.
Because they have one there all along, so you can see
Right.
while you're having
Yeah. Is there an ice cream place there as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll stop there a few times. The promenade or whatever, yeah. I went down there and just, was that when it was lockdown and the beach was absolutely crammed. You know, we cycled up and we were like, oh my God, this is, I'm not sure this is legal. Yeah. It's funny because my dad used to sail at Sheerness, and so they'd often do a race from Sheerness across the estuary, you know, to Southend and then go back again. I sort of grew up in Kent, so a bit more different. So yeah, did you have any questions or anything? And then I can hopefully talk and draw. What did you what do you study at the moment? Oh, sorry. Sorry. I assumed I didn't know, but. Oh, okay. Not your choice. Well, maths is a kind of yeah. Well, I don't know. I love maths. I really loved it, but I was not particularly good at it because of dyslexia, so I could never remember. I always struggled to remember. So like, it was really frustrating because like if I've given enough time, I can work it out, but I need paper to write it down, you know, and I can't retain the numbers. Whereas other people like, you know, you give them numbers and they just like work it out. It's like, but the actual math is fine. But yeah, you know, it's useful, I guess, at some point. But spell checks and computers, my God, they help so much. We didn't. I mean, there again, we didn't have spell checks back in the day, so that was always my spelling's terrible. Okay, God. I tell you, well, I mean, the technology is amazing. I mean, they're talking about all this stuff, but like Google Translate, when you're in a foreign country, you know, if you've got a sign, you just pass the phone in front of it, and it just translates it on the fly. It's like, holy cow, that's amazing.
At work, when we've got patients that they speak different language.
Oh, right, of course, yeah.
And then they're translating with Google.
And it's kind of a bit goofy, but it's enough that you can understand. Yeah, and it like even changes the color of the text and makes it look like it's amazing. So, but yeah. Okay. Oh, they moved the laptop. Yeah. You still on? Oh, I'm still on. Yeah, that's all right. I guess the people need to listen to our backstory or your backstory. Yeah. So you're interested in illustration specifically, or? Yeah. And
back up to go on to teaching now.
Can you hear me? Is that the mic? I can hear myself, yeah, that's good. So, hi everyone. Where's my clicker? So I'm Dan Duran. I'm basically what's called a cluster lead, so I look after the whole of visual arts. It's a bit convoluted today because we've got two things going on. So there was a talk in the morning, and then there's a talk in the afternoon, and you guys have kind of overlapped some of the other stuff. So sorry if you've been waiting a little bit of time. That's it's just the way it's worked out. Hopefully you got to kind of maybe see some of the building and got to chat to some of the staff. I'm going to try and keep this really short as possible, but it's probably about half an hour to go through it all. And I've got lots of stuff to show you rather than just waffle on. But yeah, try my best. So these are the courses we do here at University of East London in our area. So we've got fine art technology, photography, commercial photography, illustration animation. We've got Will here, who's one of the leads illustration animation. Don't know if you want to say hello. We've also got, I think some of you spoke to Andrew Osman as well, who runs graphic design and illustration. We've also got a design interaction course, which I run, which is a new course. And we've also got all the courses can be a 4-year degree. So I think you were talking about the 4-year option. So how that works is that the first year in that instance, that would be what we call a foundation year, and it's kind of you do a bit of everything. So you do a bit of every subject, and it's very diagnostic. So it might be that you haven't tried certain things at school, or you haven't tried things at college. So you get an opportunity to kind of learn all these different skills, and then kind of make an informed decision about what you really want to do. Hey guys, coming in. That's all right. We've only just started. And then you would go on to the regular degree. But some of you might have already done a level 3 introduction and not need to do that and go straight onto the degree. And it's really, I guess it's a personal choice. The traditional way of going through arts education would be good to go through a foundation. That said, I never did one and I did all right. So, but then lots of other people have done it and they absolutely love it because it's a year where there's less pressure on you. You get an opportunity to kind of meet people that you in a kind of a context away from home. And so really it's your first venture and maybe potentially out of, the kind of comfort of home. But yeah, as I say, there's a little bit less pressure. Anyway, essentially, what I'm going to base this talk around is I'm going to center it around you, the student. And everything we do is based around our community and you being centered. And as this sort of diagram shows, so I'm going to talk about the different things as we kind of, the things that wrap around that experience. Oh, okay. Ooh. And so the first thing, as I say, is happy students. I think if you're happy, then you are much more likely to learn and much more likely to absorb knowledge and much more likely to go on and produce really great work. So I've got a little video, 60-second lesson that one of the lecturers put together about Harvey Ball, the designer or illustrator of this emoji or smiley face.
This is an original 1963 smiley pin badge designed by Harvey Ball for the Worcester Mutual Insurance Company when it merged with the State Mutual Insurance Company. This merger resulted in low morale. Harvey, who's a freelance graphic designer, was drafted in to do something to cheer up the workers and to remind them to smile when they're on the phone selling insurance. The huge success, the company loved it, the execs loved it, they put it up more. By 1970, they sold 50 million of them. It then went worldwide, and today, we use the emoji on our phone when we send text messages, and it's become a global icon. Harvey Ball was paid $45 for his work, and he never copyrighted it. He saw it as his gift to the world. Harvey Ball.
So that was Ed Gill. He's actually recently left UEL to take up a lot more senior role, but he worked really closely with me and Andrew in graphic design and that kind of area, and I just couldn't resist leaving that in the presentation. At some point, I'll have to do one myself, try and equal that. Here is all the names of all the staff that teach here. I think it's really, it's different to school and college in the sense that a lot of the staff that work here work in industry and often work part-time. They're not full-time teachers. There's only a number of us that are full-time. And that's because, you know, to have a practitioner that's teaching you that's kind of embedded in industry is absolutely essential. And I would say that most of our, or all of our staff are world-class, doing really interesting research and the other stuff. Okay. So as we kind of move out from this kind of idea of kind of creating a nice happy space, so you've got the students and the staff, and then as we kind of move out, it's the kind of increased, successful cross-community learning. So what that means is that what are the kind of things that we do that kind of engage you and the events we kind of do. And this is quite a long list of things, but this is one example. We do like life drawing classes, which all of the cluster can go to. So no matter if you're a fine art student or an illustrator, you can go along to fine art, go along to life drawing and participate. And it's a way of kind of keeping your eye on, you know, the kind of a different way of being creative, and really get students to kind of mix and do things kind of in a much more analog kind of form. Dan Coombs is running a workshop next door, which kind of riffs off this as well, and he often leads those classes. And it's optional. It's you don't have to be able to draw. In fact, we kind of like it if people can't draw, and you kind of just dive in and be creative. Project Stream is a kind of a big project which is school-wide, and this is where we put the computer science, the engineers, the construction students together with the visual artists, and we work on bigger projects, you know, for just 1 week, and it's a 1 week where you don't do anything else but this project. And this year's project, we sort of worked with the Royal Docks in reimagining what the city might look like. And there was a location in Canning Town, which is a disused space, which was part of Crossrail. And yeah, it was reimagining what a city might look like. So thinking about maybe the 20-minute city, where everything you do is centered around 20 minutes from being able to walk from your house, where you work, where you shop, where you socialize, etc. So it's kind of reimagining what cities can do. This is a really good, interesting kind of lecture series we do called Detour Ahead, where we shut down teaching there again for a whole week, and we just do lectures. So we have 4 lectures a day or discussions. And the real aim for this is to invite really quite prominent people in, but we don't really allow them to talk about their work. What we do is we get them to talk about how they got to where they got to. So I think it's really interesting is that, you know, we can often have people talk about celebrate their kind of careers, but actually what I'm interested in is, like, if I'm a student, how do I get to where they got to, and what's their secret of their success? So we get them to talk about their journey. And this is kind of a selection of some of the things, oh yeah, it's going to play, that we had. So Gary Stewart is a filmmaker of a company called Dub Morphology. It was kind of centered in music. Adriana is really interested in, I guess, the intersection of product design and 3D printing and architecture. Rafa is a cinematographer, photographer from South America. And then we followed this particular day. This has all happened in one day by a roundtable discussion about NFTs. So NFTs is kind of a hot topic for students and artists, and different ways of being able to sell your work and monitor your work. So yeah, so this is the UEL YouTube site, and we totally dominated the feed for that week. In fact, we pretty much dominate the feed for all the time. We're producing lots and lots of content. You can see the cameras around. This is part of our sort of visual arts film unit, and they often, it's student-led, and they film a lot of our stuff and we stream it live. We found during lockdown, you know, being able to kind of stream stuff live was a really, really great way to be able to communicate. So you can check out that stuff. It's all public if you want to check out our lectures. So going from that kind of the more kind of online, sophisticated stuff, okay, what about the stuff that's like centered in the building? So we've got woodwork, as you would expect. No art school could be without woodwork. We've also got sculpture areas, we'll get onto in a second, actually. We've got technology like this. So this is a 6-axis robot. So this is the kind of robot you would see in like a Dagenham, like Ford factory, or some sort of mass production. And I think what's really important about it is this is huge as well. It's maybe you kind of see the scale of it. Is, you know, what do creative people do with this kind of industrial technology? I mean, it can obviously make cars, it can make sort of big objects, but actually how do we use it to be creative? So yeah, so I guess the only way you're going to find that out is actually to have one and to experiment with it. So this is over in the Knowledge Dock building where we have our fabrication area, which I think, yeah, it's the next slide. So this sits next to that area, and this is where we have all our 3D printers. This is a slightly old image, but that room, if you want to go over there, is sort of as the crow flies, it's just there. And it's full of, cram-packed full of different types of fabrication tools, from like vacuum forming, different types of 3D printing, different types of kind of milling machines, CNC milling machines, and that kind of thing. We're really lucky, we've got a risograph studio, so I don't know whether people have kind of come across risograph. Anyone come across risograph before? No, okay. So risograph allows you to print in something called spot colors, and it allows you to print things that are kind of a bit more like they would be commercially printed in solid block color. So things like that. What's really great about it is it's a really fast printer. So you can produce additions and things like that, but you have to print every color as an individual plate. So it's a bit more like screen printing. And you can kind of see examples on the walls there, actually. It's a really great craft kind of type printer. Really, illustrators and graphic designers tend to gravitate towards that area. We're really lucky. We've got 2 print rooms, one textile-based and one paper-based. This is the paper-based area. We did the tour earlier. Maybe some of you were with me. Hey, man, I recognize you. This is the different types of presses we have. We've got like I think just off of camera, a direct press, beaver press. And these are different types of presses for different types of mark making, essentially. I really recommend, if you've got time, to wander down and have a look at those studios. So alongside that one, as I say, we've got a textile one, which is a bit more, essentially the dye, the inks have just got dye in them. And obviously for dyeing the fabric. But yeah, really lucky. We've also got a really massive dark room, which is probably underutilized. There's plenty of space. And there again, all these areas are open access. So once you get inducted, you can just rock up there and just start printing or doing whatever you got to do. So we really like to kind of have the areas open as much as possible so that you can facilitate you making. You know, and art schools are all about making stuff. So coming back to this is the sculpture kind of area. This is quite a narrow image of a much bigger space. We've got, we can do bronze casting. We can do, you know, really big, we've got really big kilns in there and that kind of thing. We also started doing 3D printed pots. So using the fabrication space to make, to print with clay instead of plastic. And then we can take that into the sculpture area and then start to mold that and work with that in a kind of maybe a more tactile way. We've got, this is kind of a multi-purpose continuous lighting studio. So for like green screens and that kind of thing, little sort of, I guess, TV production or film production, or maybe making animation, that kind of thing. And that's just an example of one of the students using that for a project they did in Foundation. Okay, so culture maneuvers is something we have every week, and it's I guess, to call it a lecture series would be sort of like cheating it. It's much more than that. To give you an example, like 2 weeks ago, we had guys on stage with a load of synthesizers and Pro Tools and music software, and they created a track live on stage, and we had all the audience. We probably had like, I don't know, probably getting up to 70, 80 people in here in this room, all getting involved with production, making that music production. So what has that got to do with art and design? Well, it's kind of, you know, it's got related to the creativity and in maybe a different way. And what was really interesting is the type of students that gravitated towards the students, well, the ex-students that run the workshop. Yeah, it chimes with different people. So bringing different opportunities, you know, to you to kind of absorb. Last week or this week, we had 2 lectures back to back. One was by a group called Anti-University, looking at alternative ways of education, and also another one called University of the Underground, who run postgraduate courses in Amsterdam. And they're looking at breaking the status quo and looking at kind of different ways of education. And yeah, really interesting kind of discussion. So this is just a little taster of one of the events about skateboarding that we also did.
Welcome to Free on the Streets, lecture about skateboarding and its impact on global culture. 5,000-year-old Peruvian sculpture shows a surfer surfing in the ocean on a little flotilla. So that's 5,000-year-old sculpture. It's a modern-day version of the sort of surfboard/post that would have been riding that.
Chop it in half directly and stick it on a Victorian swing bridge. Or I can slice them in half horizontally for installations such as Come Hell or High Water, which I created at a time when streets were flooded.
So the first bit was, as I say, was part of Cultural Maneuvers, which was a talk about skateboarding culture, and how that influences like creative culture more widely. This talk was a TED talk that one of our researchers did, which also we replayed at Cultural Maneuvers. And he's an artist, yeah, making big scale interventions and yeah, pieces within, you know, the context of the places we live and work. Obviously, as a kind of a creative area, we're often making posters and that kind of thing for the events we do, and this is just kind of a selection of some of the things we're doing. Conscious isolation sort of came out of, I guess, the lockdown period, and I don't know whether Sam's with us. Do you want to talk very briefly about? This is, yeah, you don't need to actually, because it's not been broadcast.
So conscious isolation, essentially my friend and I, we decided to make this platform whilst we were in lockdown. So when everybody wasn't able to go to galleries and things like that and go to the normal cultural events that we once were able to, we developed this platform so that individuals could come online and basically watch very interesting lectures about sort of fine arts in general and design. We then collaborated with the University of East London and using all this great tech that they've got, really able to sort of get it out there. And it's not a London-centric sort of platform, it's very much global. You know, so we get lecturers over from LA or India or wherever. And so it
was really good in terms of what we learned was that, you know, very often before the pandemic, we would, you know, struggle to get people, you know, into the building, like, you know, if they were, I don't know, from South America, whereas via digital technology, we can connect to these people and then we can give really great talks, you know, so we can connect to a wider demographic and a wider amount of the population to yeah, get really creative people to inspire our students. Cheers, Sam. So along with those things, we have a thing called Enterprise Week where a bunch of different things happen, and yeah, we have something like called a fine art auction. Sometimes for the fine artists, it's the first time they ever sell a bit of work, but it's a really lively event, and everyone gets probably, you know, has a few drinks, and it becomes, you know, a bidding war, and we often get some of the senior management to come down and open their checkbooks, and yeah, it's really lively and fun, but it's often a good way for fine art students and illustrators to really understand how they might go about selling their work in the real world. And there's some other stuff there, yeah, just put as examples. So I don't think you'd go to university and not really want to ever go on a trip. This, you know, fundamental to the kind of learning experience is bonding with your fellow peers and staff and doing things that you wouldn't normally do. So obviously trips to London is kind of a given. We're in London, that makes total sense. But what about where further afield? So this is, I think it's down in Sheppey, I think, or Margate, one of the two. So a little bit further afield, but then we go further still. So this is Berlin, obviously in Europe. We have things like this where we take students backstage to productions, so trips to events. This was a Secret Cinema. We're doing a Blade Runner. Anyone know what Secret Cinema is, first of all? Okay, so Secret Cinema is a bit like a promenade performance, so theatre performance, kind of crossed with watching a film. So they base it, I think they're doing some at the moment. Who knows what Bridgerton is? Bridgerton? Anyone? Okay. They pick, you know, generally popular films or popular TV series, and they recreate the world in excruciating detail. So when you go on set, so to speak, you dress up, you get given a character, and you become that character within that world. And then the film happens around you, it's acted out. In addition, they sort of play the film at the same time. Anyway, we took our students behind the scenes to see that production process here and all the people that, you know, are needed to make that a reality. So this was down in Canning Town, and they had a rain machine which made the whole world rain at certain given times during the film, which is totally mad. So further afield again, we've got places like India. We took the students to Hyperblad and things like USA. So Andrew, we're name dropping some of the places. You went to...
We did a kind of helter-skelter trip, 15 days to the American Midwest. So we flew into Chicago. This is about...
Detroit.
About 15 students, I think, 3 members of staff. Yeah, we then went to Detroit, and then back to Chicago, and we went to the University of Iowa. So we sort of zipped across the American Midwest on the train. I don't know what it's called.
Amtrak?
Amtrak, yeah. Big beautiful trains. Like it's kind of viewing decks. And, yeah, it's a great trip. This is in Chicago. This is a niche for sculpture. And we reflected being shaped in art. Yeah, we visited different practitioners. We visited graphic design practitioner in Chicago who was working in a museum. It's actually a British designer. And then visited the American printer in Detroit who was kind of looking at, I guess, post-industrial Detroit. So we actually like moved there to help the city regenerate, I suppose.
So what's really great about UEL is we have this thing called the Going Global Bursary, and the bursary enables students, I can't remember exactly how much money it is, but I think it was like 1,500 quid from memory, depending on what you need.
The only condition really is that you come and you explain your trip to everyone else who's on the same bursary. So what's really great about that is you go to an evening and the students who are doing sports, or some students were doing physiology and they've gone and done autopsies. I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow.
So there's like a real plethora of different spaces and places that students have gone out to, and then in return to kind of lecture each other essentially about their experiences. So yeah, we talked about our experience in Detroit mostly, which I don't know if you're familiar with Detroit, maybe through films like 8 Mile or something like that.
I need to grab that video.
Post-industrial city, and we also have a kind of post-industrial legacy here, so we're trying to make connections to that.
One of our students befriended some other students, I think, in that location, and hot-footed it across the border into Canada, I think illegally, and then back again. But yeah, he's yeah, it was just, you know, I think it's those kind of times where you sort of really you connect with each other and it really bonds you, and I think those bonds also kind of lead into professional life. Oh, gone, yeah.
So the chap with the cap in the corner who's laughing is one of our graduates, Alex, and I've recently completed a project with Alex where we've worked together professionally. Alex is an amazing graphic designer, does lots of music and events, and plays graphic design in London. And so, yeah, like I think the idea of, I mean, I didn't go on the trip with Alex, but my colleague did, and through that person, I got to know them more. You know, I think there's a lot to be said for that kind of familiarity and the kind of family, essentially, that our graduates kind of produce.
So you would have gone through, and we might have even showed you the Way Out East Gallery, which is just out there. And there again, it's another example of a kind of a space that artists, designers need to be able to experiment and to showcase their work and to see what works, what doesn't work, and how they might do that. So yeah, so we've got our own gallery space, which is the whole front of that building bit there, out there. During lockdown, we obviously couldn't come in. And so the question is how are we going to have exhibitions and showcase the students' work? So this is a virtual interpretation or representation of that gallery space. It's in a slightly different configuration. We did a lot of building work over the summer. But this is, yeah, a VR experience exhibition of the MA fine art work from 2 years ago. Okay. So we also need spaces, different sorts of spaces for testing things. And I think there again, if they're centered around the student and their experience, what about these other experiences you need to kind of contain? Now we're dockside, and arguably this dockside was completely cleared through containerization. So the sort of industrialization of the docks and the kind of rising ways of capitalism. And the container is the icon of that period, I would say. It's everything we buy, everything we do at some point fits within one of these containers. And so we've got one of these containers that you can hire out and essentially test and use your project and do stuff in. So it's just a blank canvas, it's got white walls, it's just totally stripped back, nothing else in there. And we often have events and things like that in that space. So yeah, you wouldn't be to art school if you didn't have some sort of graduation showcase at the end of every year. So this is kind of some stills from our graduate showcases from previous years, and you probably recognize that's the square out there. In the summer, it's really, in fact, it's really nice today. And this one, I think, is just a rogue slide that's snipped in, but it's some really interesting augmented reality work that a graphic designer did. So when you pass the phone in front, this would all animate. Coming back to the showcase, yeah, we have a live catwalk and other kind of things which happen, which is always really, really fun. So kind of moving out, you know, the next stage, if you've got you-centered, then the stuff that supports you learning, and then this is the next stage is about, you know, building confidence and adaptability. I am a believer in, like, if you're adaptable and confident, then ultimately, like, your world is your oyster and you're not going to have any problems, you know, in a kind of an alien environment or some sort of environment where you have to think on your feet. So we run something called electives, which allow you to choose the direction of study. So you major in whatever you've chosen, illustration, graphic design, whatever. But as a side for a couple of weeks during the year, you can choose an alternative subject which sits alongside your major. So you might be a fine artist and want to go and learn a bit more about Unity, so 3D kind of games design, that kind of thing. Or you might be a graphic designer and want to know a bit more about the programming language or scripting language, Python. So it really gives you a toolkit really to kind of build what you love doing. We're all different and we're all inspired by different things. And I think, you know, you can be in a classroom with your best mate and let's say they've gone and learned a different thing, then you've both got two skills that you can talk about and share that experience. And it might be that you go, wow, that sounds really interesting. Okay, next time I'm walking past that room that you did that in, I'll wander in and find out myself. And therefore you learn a bit more. And it's always about, you know, generating this kind of environment for you to be inquisitive and build confidence. This is just some of the stills from the electives. So this is a workshop that Sai and Amanda run, where you scratch on celluloid film, so proper film. We're really lucky we can print, we can use 16mm film. This is, that's a bookbinding workshop. This is Carmen, one of the lecturers running a pinhole camera. We turned the big container into a pinhole camera. Reese actually, we sent him on a commercial project this week, paid commercial project this week for us. This is the print room, again, mark making and that kind of thing. And I think we've got a little bit of animation in a second. There we go, that's Will's animation stuff. So plasticine based, and it's just really first steps. Oh, it's Ridwan, it's your work, isn't it? So first steps into understanding things. This is painting with code. So this is a bit of software called Drawbot, which allows you to translate Python code into drawings. Okay, we'll stop there. I think it's really important that students actually have a chance to, learn theory. And I think it's really good when we put students from different disciplines together. So our contextual studies, which is our theory classes, are all for the whole of the cluster. So you might end up as a graphic designer or fine artist sitting next to an animator or someone from photography, and sharing that kind of that shared knowledge of contextual studies. We also have a massive central store where you can hire equipment. So if you want to take out laptops, cameras, lights, audio equipment, anything that you can think of really, lenses, stuff that is kind of, you probably might not have at home or might not have access to, you can hire out a bit like a library, and you just have it for like several days and then you hand it back. And you just need to bring it back on time, and it's all free and part of it. There again, it's about facilitating you making work and producing and experimenting. We've sort of moved away from labs, computer labs, more towards laptop trolleys. This is one of our trolleys there with the A on it, and inside that is like a whole stack of laptops. And what that enables us to do is bring the computers into our studios. Rather than going somewhere else to learn computer stuff, we can just bring the computers in. And it's much more how industry works. Obviously, most people are using laptops and stuff now. So it's kind of just a more easy way, I guess, or less friction. So moving out, keep going out. This is a bit more sort of the wider community. So I don't know if people have heard of LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning used to be called lynda.com. And it's students have access to the whole library of software, mainly software tuition. There's lots of other things on there as well. But personally, I think this is, for me, is one of the best ways of learning software, because you can sit there with your software and you can have it running on your iPhone or your iPod or Android or whatever, and you can just follow along. So you follow by parrot fashion, but actually that's not a bad thing when you're learning sort of quite technically focused skills. It's not really about the ideas. This is about just learning the software. Then you can apply the software, with your own ideas. So there's a whole bunch of courses. This is just my feed. So these are things I've been looking at. I think this is stuff I probably I was watching to put together a lecture and put together other stuff I'm interested in. This is So yeah, really good resource. In addition to that, we have Creative Cloud. So all the students in our area get Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, After Effects, Animate, and all the different suite of tools that Adobe do, and you get access to install that on the machine at home or whatever. Yeah, you wouldn't obviously be anywhere without IT support. Health and well-being is an important thing, and the disability team, including learning difficulties and that kind of thing, support for that area. I'm dyslexic myself, and I definitely struggled with kind of essays and that kind of thing. But I think that goes with the territory. If you've got a creative mind, often your mind works in maybe a different way. And so, there's be times where you might need support. We've got really great support at UEL. And yeah, that's all like part of the kind of experience here. So this is where we get right to the outer reaches, where we start to interface with industry. And someone's asked me on the walk around about like industry connections. So we do lots of things like, competitions, graphic design do D&AD, the illustrators do like Penguin book cover and sort of book design kind of competitions. But there's a whole host of things that we do to connect up with industry. All our courses are kind of developed with industry partners, and they often have a good relationship with our courses and come in and support our teaching. And we often go on visits to see their premises and that kind of thing. This is some logos to underline the point. So happy, adaptable, confident, successful, students, and that is pretty much how we see the art and design experience, and these things kind of all interlink to kind of create that. Just the kind of final thoughts, I guess, or final things. This is a couple of projects of alumni. So these are people that have flown the nest and doing very well for themselves. So Charlotte was a graphic design illustrator who went to the Royal College. She was designing some work, or putting some work together, and a stylist for A$AP Rocky saw the work and got hold of the work and then flew it out to New York and got put on A$AP Rocky, and then the paparazzi obviously snapped him moving out or coming out of some place. So it's kind of like, being part of that kind of cultural context. This is Izmir's work. Basically, he's a graphic designer. He designed this logo here, and now that logo is flying around in space around us right now. He's subsequently done another one, he told me recently. But yeah, it's quite, I think for a creative person, creating something and then getting it out there into the world is one thing, but getting that into space is like next level. And yeah, we're super proud. This is Amabel from Illustration, who self-published her own book and won a really interesting award for that self-publishing book, so illustration-based. And this is another alumni from graphic design, Joseph Police, who designed, or part of the team that designed and built a machine that's over there called the Atoto. So I really invite all of you to go and touch a bit of fruit or veg before you leave the room. And you can see how that project starts to incorporate lots of things and technology, which is starting to merge with the kind of creative areas. So things that are touch, instigated through touch and yeah, sensors and things. But yeah, I'm Dan Duran. We are at the University of East London, and thanks for coming and listening. Hope that wasn't too long and kept your attention. And there's obviously loads of staff, and we've got all our rooms open, so you can kind of check it out. Any questions? Come and grab us. But yeah, thanks. Oh yeah, true. This one is beautiful. But yeah, some lovely stuff here. Yeah, great. Thanks, guys.
So there are different members of staff here. If you want to talk fine art, photography. Yeah. Some of you came in.
Yeah, there was a few people a little bit late. So we've got Adam Wiseman, who looks after photography and commercial photography. We've got Amanda, who looks after fine art technology. Sam, who basically looks after foundations. So that's all the courses. We've got Andrew, who looks after graphic design illustration. We've got Will, illustration, animation, and illustration. It's a bit of a mouthful. I pretty much know most things, and but yeah, just wander around and have a play with some of this stuff. But yeah.
So if anyone from photography is not seeing, for example, the studio